Coach Teresa Ford here, and this is the Guiding You Home podcast. This is a thought-provoking and often humorous approach to moving you closer to the only one who can genuinely help you live a life of abundance and prosperity. Sound good? Yeah, it's you that needs to go within so you can sit in the driver's seat of your life, co-creating with God. So make room for more light and knowledge. As you continue to listen, you will discover elements of how to lead with your inner light, how to act on your specific promptings, and how to follow your spiritual intuition so you can fulfill the measure of your creation. Thanks for being here, and let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Guiding You Home, Building Confidence to Go Within. Let's talk about our problems, shall we? So I find that we fall into this trap of trying to solve problems 24/7. I heard a recent study that 98% of our brain is focused on worries that haven't happened or probably won't happen or that are out of our control. 98% of that controls our brain. Wowza. Can you imagine the mental capacity if we stop the habit of worrying about our problems? Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about problems. What are they? Like, for real. What is a problem? It might be something that's unknown. It might be something that hasn't happened yet. It might be a trigger from the past. It has a hint, a sense, a flavoring of something back there when you were small that's happening similarly, not exact, but similarly now. And if so, we tend to view the problem from a place of helplessness or unsupportedness. And so if we pull the camera way back, just get a bigger view of what we're looking at, of the focus of where we're looking. Nothing is actually a problem. And I don't mean to minimize the way you feel about your life or that you feel about a situation or that you feel about somebody else. Feelings are not facts. So I know people are like, but it's how I feel. I know. Ask me how I know. But if we look at our problems as if they're not problems, maybe it's an opportunity to grow. Let's take a trigger, for instance. The trigger in the past is not actually currently happening now, like not exact. And in the past, you were small or you were feeling helpless or your little brain was underdeveloped and things weren't going as you hoped. This is a super top level type of example, but you didn't get a cookie before dinner and your mom's like, no, you can't have a cookie before dinner. You're like, and then you're super upset about that. It was a problem because your little heart's desire was to have that sweet right then and there because you just knew it would make you feel better. And that is the reason we want anything, isn't it? It's just because we know it'll make us feel better. So when we have a problem, we don't automatically just go to the solution. The solution is in you. It's just sitting still for a second and asking yourself, what is the next most important step I can take to solving this problem, to getting the client I want, to, moving in the direction of getting the promotion I want, or being able to teach something the way I want to teach it. You're just asking for the next step. And sometimes it's 3 steps in the dark before the light comes on. But is it a problem? No. Is it a growth opportunity? Always. Always. Like the growth itself is in not looking at everything as a problem. And here's why not having problems is a better idea than calling them problems. Because if you have a problem, the tendency is to go down the rabbit hole and to compound the problem. We tell a story that is bigger than the actual facts because feelings and emotions are involved, and then it's almost impossible to overcome it. So we're not actually going inward to get the answers to the test. we're just outwardly focusing, and then this problem keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, we're expanding our vision for how bad this can get. So if that's not the goal, please tell me you don't think it's the goal. If that is not the goal, then we can also do the reverse. I love to reverse engineer everything that our brain does, because guess what? That's where the answers are. So if you're reverse engineering a problem, you're like, well, what if it wasn't a problem? And what if I did have the answers to the test? What would I do next? How would I move forward? How would I eliminate the roadblock? How would I, and you're just asking these questions of yourself. When I was standing in the mirror and I was overweight and not super energized by that, I asked myself, well, how can I get fit? How am I going to do that and stop dieting? Like, I don't want to count calories. I don't want to find this huge resistance to doing a type of workout I'm not familiar with. Like, I just was like, just make it easy for me, help. And on this 20-minute drive home, after putting bigger pants back on the rack in the dressing room, the answer came to me. And it wasn't because I was obsessing, and it wasn't because I was fantasizing how bad this was going to get and how much bigger my pants were going to be, and that I just have to be okay with being the person that I don't think I am, but just accept it anyhow. And it wasn't that. It was like, how do I want to align myself with the answer to the test? And the answer was, if you got uncomfortable with yourself one meal at a time, you can get comfortable with yourself one meal at a time. And voila, I reverse engineered how uncomfortable I was with myself. 6 months time, 8 dress sizes smaller, I was able to actually embody, align with, however you want to say it, be the person I knew myself to be on the inside, not from obsessing about a problem. Up until that moment of deciding that if I buy bigger pants, I'm going to have to buy a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one. Until that moment that I decided I would not buy the bigger pants, there must be a solution. Everything prior to that was standing on the scale, starving for 3 to 4 days, cookie, cake, ice cream, everything that wasn't nailed down the next 5 to 7 days. Like, it was terrible, because it really played awful tricks on with my mind about my true value. So if we're trying to solve problems, if we're trying to not have problems and find opportunities to improve ourselves, like, that was probably the most defining moment for me in how not to solve a problem, but how to align myself with the person I knew myself to be, align myself with the actual persona of being fit. I started doing what fit people do. I mean, that is the answers to the test for everything. Just saying, if you want to be spiritually oriented, you're going to be sitting with God and waiting on his timeline. But you're going to be talking to him, and you're going to be consistent, and you're going to do what God-hearing people do. So it's not a problem if you can't hear God right now. You just haven't taken the time to build that muscle. If you're not making money right now, it's not a problem, because you will if you look at yourself and claim, I am a badass moneymaker. And in that moment, the shift happens. The answers come. You're just looking for that first step, that very first step. And when you get that first step, then you're just looking for the next step. It's not going to be unfolded in like Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, where he saw all these things happening in the 7 years of famine and the 7 years of plenty. It's just not probably, I'm not saying it won't, I'm just saying it probably isn't going to unfold for you that way. But we can receive answers in our contemplation. Contemplation is probably one of your greatest resources that is so underutilized, because contemplation gives you space. It's not a panic situation. We don't have to have an answer right this second. If this has been a problem, whatever you're looking at, the thing you want to change, if it's been a problem for a while, then today is not the day to panic that we needed it yesterday, right? We're going to be very methodical. And let me just use the example again. People who gain weight are not impatient with the process of gaining weight. They're just not happy that, when they finally get to the place where they max out and they're like, hey, I am not available for gaining more. That's when they start to panic and go, oh my gosh, I got to rewire this and rework it and change it right now. I need like 3 weeks. I want this to be done. And it took 8 years to get there. You can't get it done like that. So if you want the answer to the test, if you want answers from your inner guidance system, from your resources, from your God, you're going to have to just sit with it. I was not in a prayer mode, per se, when I received the answer to how I was going to reverse engineer my problem of being overweight. I was actually driving in the car, and I highly recommend driving in the car if you want the answers to the test, because this forward motion, it keeps you from getting stuck, right? Half of your brain is super busy paying attention to spotlights, working all the bells and levers as you're moving along on the road. So the other part of your brain can access God. The other part of your brain can access your true spirit, your higher self, right? And you're just working through something. It's like, if I was going to be this person that I want to become, or if I was going to have this thing I know would make me so much happier and it would make me feel good for having it, you will find an answer. Maybe it's just a first step. Maybe it's a little more than that. Like the answer that came to me was, if you can get there this way, you can get there that way. Like, that is true in most situations. So this is your opportunity to not have a problem, but to see something as an opportunity for your growth, because that's all it is. We're either winning or we're learning. That's the way this works, right? So if we're winning, we're moving through the solution. We're moving beyond seeing a problem into the solution. Okay. Again, your brain is incredibly powerful. Controlzilla, she can go down a rabbit hole and make things absolutely horrible. You're going to be unfriended. Nobody's going to love you. Everybody, is disappearing in your life. You're going to be left alone, unsupported, blind, deaf, and dumb on the corner. Like, your brain will go to the nth degree of something that probably is the most unlikely way that this is going to wind up. But your brain could also do the other. It can do the exact opposite. So just make sure you're watching your thoughts, because if you don't watch your thoughts, you probably don't know why you feel as yucky as you do. You know that yucky gut soup that shows up? Yeah, if you weren't watching your thoughts, you can at least recognize the yucky gut soup, because the yucky gut soup, once again, reverse engineer it. Where did the yucky gut soup come from? It came from your nervous system. Why did your nervous system send you a chemical soup, a signal, a hormonal signal to buckle up? It is going to be a rough ride. It was a thought. And the thought you had the message of fear attached to it. I'm going to be overweight for the rest of my life. I'm going to lose everything I have. I'm going to end up homeless. Like, those thoughts have an intense amount of fear. Now, you might be having thoughts that have a mild hint of fear, but if it doesn't feel good in your body, you can reverse engineer that. It's like, hey, what was I just thinking about? So in those moments, hey, what was I just thinking about? You will find the answers to the test. And you're going to know, it took me down a rabbit hole in a place I really didn't enjoy being. Or you're going to say, it actually lifted my mind and my heart. When I was asking about how am I going to get my body back to where it feels really comfortable to me, the answer wasn't heavy. It was like, simple. You were eating 6 times a day and you were a garbage disposal. So you're going to eat 6 times a day and the food's going to have a purpose in your body. It's like, oh, it just felt good. And usually your answers are simple like that. It's not going to be a big plan. Okay, tell me what I have to eat morning, noon, and night, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to, don't expect that. The simple answer is the one that's really going to stick. It's going to work for you. It's going to help you move along the path just really methodically, right? If it took you 8 years in a relationship to finally get out, it's going to probably take you some time, more than a year, to get yourself in a healthy state where you can go looking for a relationship and join in and really have a firm foundation on what used to be a problem but is now a solution because it's an awareness. As you're aware, you're solving problems. You're finding solutions. So I want you to be an excellent solution finder instead of a constant problem solver. There's a difference. Can you hear it? One of those is going to make your life a lot easier. One of those is the same thing that's always been there, and it's heavy. So let's lighten up. Let's get into the solution finding. Let's ask ourselves a better question. Let's move in the direction of what can I do next? What is the next most important step for me? And then do it. If you hear it and you don't do it, it's going to build up as overwhelm because it's like, oh, I was going to do that. I was going to do that. I was going to do that. And then you don't. And then you're right back into overwhelm, which probably was a good portion of how you got a problem in the first place. So your job is to ask, listen, do it, and then be it. Because as I was getting fit, I was just doing what fit people do. So a lot of times when we look at fit people, we're like, wow, wouldn't that be nice? It's like, no, don't ever make an assumption that they weren't at some point uncomfortable with themselves, right? They were doing what fit people do. Don't, like, if somebody has a lot of money, do not sit there and fantasize about how, gosh, it would be nice to be them. They worked for it, but it's because they aligned with it. They were like, I'm going to do what people with pockets full of money do. So this is your opportunity to just keep plugging along, but notice that if you're focused on the solution, how much easier it's going to be than if you're focused on the problem. That's probably going to take you down the rabbit hole, and then you're going to resign yourself to whatever. It's just, I guess nothing's going to change. So your job is to go within, sit with it in a solution-oriented mindset. And then every problem after that, I hope you refer to it as, this is a growth opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to expand. This is an opportunity for me to envision something different. This is an opportunity for me to feel fired up. All right. Thank you, my friends, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. I invite you to leave your feedback and share your aha moments as you listen to this podcast. Also, you can access more information or any of the programs, courses, or worksheets that I've mentioned on these episodes on my website at teresaford.life. Or what I would really love is for you to connect with me on Instagram at teresaford.coaching and on Facebook at Coaching with Teresa Ford, so I can give you more interesting insights and further coaching to help you fulfill the measure of your creation.